Hi there, my name's Keaton Britt, and this is why to be a pilot. My name's Keaton. This is for a project in my ELA class. I've been wanting to become a pilot. I have been interested in being a pilot, and I never really got to indulge a lot of my time into looking over it and doing it because I still don't really know what I want to do after high school. But whenever I saw the opportunity to not only get a grade for it, but to indulge my time in it when I don't really have a lot of time because most of my free time is taken up by other things other than, looking through articles and websites about pilot life. I indulged in the opportunity to look at it. So, without further ado, maybe my 2 weeks of getting information can help you guys, and for some folks, thinking about becoming a pilot one day. Okay, so let's get started. Alrighty. Step one: how do you even get a pilot license? There's a lot of things you will need to get a pilot license, or to even get admitted into school. There's certain things, just like if you want to get a degree, you got to get accepted into a school. If you don't get accepted into the school, you can't get a degree. It's too bad. This is how the way things go. You need to pass medical exams, physical exams, mental exams. There's a lot of different things you need to pass depending on what you want to do and what type of license you want to get, which we will get into. There's a lot of different things and a lot more in depth with just saying that you want to be a pilot than what there actually is. You need to pass written exams. On top of that, you need to be at least 16 to even start the classes. So if I wanted to right now, I could go start taking in-person classes or online classes. It doesn't mean I get to fly a plane, but it does mean I get to learn about flying a plane. And then whenever I turn 18, I can start going into actual training. So a high school diploma or equivalent is generally required for airline training programs. So basically what that means is you need to have some sort of, um, you know, diploma or degree or anything like that. And just to get a license, you need a number of flight hours. And before you start training, you need a student pilot certificate. Now that student pilot certificate comes from doing those classes that I just talked about. So if I was 16 and I want to go to classes, I'd go to classes. And if I passed them, I'd get a student pilot certificate, knowing that I know the basics about flying a plane. And once I go, let me put it in this example. Okay, so before you actually start to drive, you go, for some people go to driving school. So you need to pass written exams and tests before you actually go out and are with a driving instructor driving. It's the same thing here. You need a pass test before you go into pilot school, like before you actually go to fly. Let me get my information back up. My monitor turned off. Anyways, so yes, you need certain things to fly, and also to get a license, you also need a number of hours inside of a plane. You need a number of flight hours to even get a official license. Now, for some people, that might seem like a lot, or the acceptance might seem like a lot to some people. So there is one other way to get a pilot license, and that is military. So you can get a job in the military centered around being a pilot or being a pilot technician of some kind or anything like that. And I would say that Air Force is definitely the easiest way to become a pilot in the military. There's other military branches you become a pilot in, but it's hard to get accepted into the type of training and stuff you go through. Just how there's only 10 U.S. Marines selected to go through airborne training every year, but in the Army, it's one of the most popular jobs in the Army. So it's kind of like the same case here. It's easier to become a pilot in the Air Force than what it would be in the Coast Guard or anything like that. Of course, you can still do it. It'd just be harder. So on the Air Force's official website, it told me, this is the information I got. By going first, you become an officer in the Air Force. So that's basically you just go through basic boot camp, stuff like that. You go through your basics, and then you go to the Air Force. You can also do that by going to the Air Force Academy. um, or going through an officer school. Um, then next, you would start your undergraduate pilot training, UTP, and then you get an aircraft and start training. So basically, UTF, pilot is like pilot classes, and then or UTP is pilot classes, and then after you get in the aircraft, you go to advanced flight training, ATF, which is where you actually get to fly planes. Now there's different licenses you can get, obviously, with being a pilot. You can be a student pilot. You can fly under supervision of a flight instructor, which is basically what you do in uh, pilot school. You're a student pilot. You're learning to be a pilot. So basically, it's like a learner's permit with a license. So that, or you can be a sports pilot. You're restricted to flying light sport aircraft. So basically, it's like very lightweight aircraft. It's aircraft that are made out of lighter materials. So they're easier to fly. They're easier to maneuver. They're just easier to fly. So it's kind of like, it's easier to drive a car than it is to drive a semi truck. Yeah. So, or you can be a recreational pilot. You can fly with limited restrictions, and that's just basically, I know there's some neighborhoods in Georgia where they have an airstrip in their backyard, and they can take a plane out of their hangar in their house and just go fly. I don't know. It's just like, you're a pilot. You can go, like rich people that own a plane and they want to go fly like once a week. They're a rec pilot. A private pilot is it allows non-operational flying. So a private pilot, everybody knows what a private pilot is. It's you fly people. I don't. You can get paid to fly people places. A commercial pilot, it allows you to fly for hire, like aero photography or sightseeing. So you can get a job with being a commercial pilot. An airline transport pilot license is like the big one. It's where you get to fly the big planes. You can be a commercial pilot, like, hold on. You get to fly the big planes. Yeah. Or you can be a flight instructor, which is you train people to fly planes. So like, your instructor whenever you was in pilot school, that'd be What are other things instead of flying? What other things can you do with a pilot license instead of flying? So I know some people want to be a flight and some people might want to have a pilot's license, but they might not necessarily want it just to go fly. And I know that sounds weird, but it's a real thing. So you can pursue jobs like being a flight instructor, which I just talked about. You can work at air charter operations, engage in activities like crop dusting or aerial photography, or even become a flight dispatcher or a flight test engineer. Or you can be a tour guide, or you can be volunteering in search and rescue. You can fly for charity. You can what's it called? Becoming a pilot and get to know your surroundings with an airplane or a helicopter can also make you a better pilot technician. Of course, when you go to technician school, they'll teach you everything you need to know about a pilot, about an airplane. But obviously, knowing how to fly the airplane is a lot different from knowing all the parts of an airplane. So I feel like if you knew how to fly the airplane, you would know how it operates without the fact that you know how everything around the motor of an airplane. So I feel like that could also help people out that work on airplanes or work on helicopters or do certain things like that. Okay, what's it like to be a pilot? A lot of people think a pilot is not that hard of a job, or commercial pilots, the ones that fly the big planes, it's not that stress inducing. But being a pilot, for the most part, it's very rigorous and it's very repetitive and it's very complicated. So through the things that I looked at from real pilots talking about their daily life, they have to do a lot just to make sure their body stays at like a healthy rate, because they're sitting down for longer periods of time and their sleep schedule is completely thrown off. So you got to think about it. A lot of flights do happen at the nighttime, and overnight. I don't know. And then what's it called? Going to different time zone. If you're traveling around the world in a plane, it's harder for you to sleep, obviously, because you're not. If I was to fly to Russia, it's not the same time there as it is here right now. So, that can definitely throw off your everything. Homesickness is another big thing that some pilots got into deep check in. One of them said, as I go through my day to day life, whenever I was younger, I used to have severe homesickness, but as I slowly grew and to be a better pilot, it slowly got better. Now, homesickness, you're away from home for a while, you're away from your family a while. So I guess that can also stress a pilot out along with the no sleep. So, and being a pilot and knowing your aircraft, if you ever seen a cockpit of a plane, it's a lot of buttons, and to know what all those buttons do is a lot. So I imagine that being a pilot would be pretty stressful in some areas, but it also can be relaxing, and it can also be rewarding too. Okay. And yeah, there's my 11 minutes of yapping. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope this is an A. Hope so.